Welcome to the Authority File, the podcast where you'll hear conversations with academic librarians, technologists, researchers, and authors whose work is laying the foundation for higher education's future. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice, and I'm excited to be speaking with Dr. Naila Khalida May. Dr. Khalida May is the principal investigator of the Black and Free Research Creation Project, a Dorothy Killam Fellow, the Tier 2 SSHRC Canada Research Chair in Race, Gender, and Performance, an accomplished multidisciplinary artist, and an associate professor at the University of Waterloo. She is also the author of Performing Female Blackness, a book just out from Wilfrid Laurier University Press that examines what private and public performances of female blackness reveal about race, gender, and nation. The title uses a fascinating and effective mashup of scholarship, poetry, performance, and lived experience to explore Black expressive culture in a variety of settings. I'm excited to share that during this interview, Dr. Khalida May employs some of the techniques she uses in her books by responding to some of my questions with song and poetry. So put your listening ears on and tune into this 4-part series, which is brought to you with support from Wilfrid Laurier University Press. In this final episode of our series, we discuss the concept of translucency, and we learn more about Dr. Khalida May's art and culture research project called Black and Free. I'd like to bring up a concept from your book called Translucency, and how that phrase in chapter 2, or a phrase in chapter 2, quote, "This is who I perform." How does that relate to translucency?
Mm-hmm. Translucency for me is what I learned while doing my doctoral studies, what I articulated during my doctoral studies when I was thinking through experiences I had with my father as a child in the mirror. So we'd stand in front of the mirror and he would say, "See a human being first," because he understood how I would be taught to see myself as a Black child in Canada.
Mm.
And so, in grad school, I learned about Lacan and was taught by people, including Dr. Marley Schweitzer and Dr. Laura Levin. And Levin, in particular, has a way of seeing, too, that I had been exposed to when I was thinking about translucency. But what I appreciated about it as a term and as an imagery is that, like, that's what I felt like he was trying to do. Like, look at yourself and you're going to see your complexion, your features, but when you see that, see human. So it was an acknowledgement or like a language to help me articulate the experience that so many have written about and theorized, the experience of like knowing who you are but seeing people look at you in a way that seeks to displace, throw off, um, suggest that, sometimes say, explicitly that you are not human. And so, he was offering a life skill, an approach, a strategy
Mm-hmm.
of managing experiences of being read as Black in this Canadian context. So that's like, was really useful, or just was like something to think through,
Mm-hmm.
and to work through. And so when I say this is who I perform, like I was performing at a young age as well too, and around all kinds of performance, formal and informal. My maternal grandmother is an incredible storyteller. So you could be receiving on the receiving end of a performance on any given any day, you know
Mm.
as well as seeing formal performance. And so this is who I perform for me, is like wanting to share and think through the idea that performance can be intentional, that we can use it as a strategy. others have talked about that as well, but that it can be a strategy of saying, this is who I am performing in this moment, be it publicly or privately, because there are so many demands and expectations on people who are read as female and Black in all aspects of private and public life. And so I'm asking, and questioning and wanting to work through in this book what happens if we understand that in that sense and take it on as performance. Like perhaps they're not only as form of strategy, but also as mode of play, of imagining, of fantasizing um, beyond that which is prescribed to us.
Mm. And control, I would think, in a way too. Like you're sort of wanting to control
Huh.
perception, I guess.
Well, control is complicated, you know. Control is complicated. It really is, because it's about power. And if we think through performance as the way of understanding,
Mm.
the notion that this is like that there's imagining a sense of stage, or that this is the way of understanding, then if the person who is in control is not the actor on the stage alone, like they have an amount of control, but the director is usually hired before the actor.
Good point.
And the director is hired by the assistant director, by the artistic director of the company. And the artistic director is in conversation with a board.
Mm.
So who's in control? We can talk about who's on stage.
Mm-hmm.
The playwright wrote the script. So what I'm suggesting is that in This Is Who I Perform, we can seek to be both, I guess, playwright and, if we want to take the theater metaphor, but we can be both playwright and performer in the moment to adjust the script and determine it. We can, be the costume designer, all of that, to have a degree of autonomy and to exert it, and to be strategic as well, and to think of it as a skill, while also recognizing that the power is in the environment as well. It
Mm-hmm.
is not solely the person who is on stage in that moment. There it is constructed by so many other pieces. So this is not a panacea, right? This is like, how do we combine this with other modes? Because we still require structural change. We still require policy, that we
Mm-hmm.
still require the many modes of engagement towards Blackness and freedom for so many other peoples, right? That we are working with. And that takes me back to wanting this work to sit within the context of traditions of Black art and Black scholarship that are thinking about improving the conditions, the
Mm.
lives, and the possibilities and futures of Black people. And by extension of that, it will necessarily mean it improves the quality of lives of other peoples too.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you. So we mentioned this back in the first episode, but you're dedicating some time in your fellowship work to your Black and Free project. Can you give us a sense of an overview of that?
Black and Free is something I decided to do and named in 2017. Um, I decided I wanted to spend the rest of my artistic and academic life focused on Blackness and freedom.
Mm.
And so in my mind, I was like, and I'm, this is Black and Free, hashtag Black and Free. And it later became a course that I piloted, an undergraduate course that I piloted at the University of Waterloo through the Arts First program there, and ran it that way a few times. And then it is now on the books officially as an undergraduate course at the University of Waterloo in the Black Studies diploma.
Excellent.
It also grew. I was successful in my applications for research funding to expand that work. I've since recorded a third album that this again thinking about Blackness and freedom, and completing a play, working on a short video series, all kinds of exciting modes. And I've also, through Black and Free, have partnered with 8 private and public sector organizations. We have been delivering programming in the region of Kitchener-Waterloo, as well as in Toronto through our partnerships with Young People's Theatre, Wilfrid Laurier University Press. We are working on 2 books together, an anthology coming out of the research for this multi-year project, as well as a photo art catalog as well. Partnered with Ken Sealing Waterloo Region Museum, did a 9-day art exhibition, symposium, marketplace there. Partnered with the museum in Kitchener-Waterloo, where we launched a new Black and Free new art series where we commissioned artists to create new work on the topic of Blackness and freedom. So commissioned 13 artists to do that. We have a typeface designer who is actually on the home stretch of completing a typeface inspired by and researched on the topic of Blackness and freedom, so that the B looks like Blackness and freedom, as does the Z and the number 3, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, this project is really, we just finished delivering on-campus programming to The Edge, which is a Black community organization in the GTA, to their participants who are 16 to 19 years old. We had them on campus at UW and took them on campus, and they met, connected with different offices there to imagine themselves as post-secondary students and have that experience of being on campus. We also delivered workshops to their children, 7 to 10 years old. I mean, we've just been, could go on. I would say, I'm really proud of the work we're doing. And we are programming through, we already have our programming lined up through to the end of January of 2024. It's multi-year. There's funding secured through to 2017. And we're just doing lots of good work. I'm proud of the work. I'm proud to lead this project. And it's come a long way from 2017 to now.
Yeah.
And is supported as well by my Canada Research Chair in Race, Gender, and Performance, in addition to the Dorothy Killam Fellowship.
Is the project based in a particular venue? Is there like a headquarters for it, or does it sort of travel around and take over certain performance spaces all over?
I am the headquarter.
Okay.
As the principal investigator, it's I've designed the project myself. It's a combination of grants that have been designed to work independently, but also together. And so that funding is secured through to 2027. And there are different partnerships, and we do different kinds of programming at different times of the year, and we'll be doing so over the course of the upcoming years.
Excellent. Well, Naila, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You just heard from Dr. Naila Khalida May. Dr. Khalida May is the principal investigator of the Black and Free Research Creation Project, a Dorothy Killam Fellow, the Tier 2 SSHRC Canada Research Chair in Race, Gender, and Performance, an accomplished multidisciplinary artist, and an associate professor at the University of Waterloo. She is the author of Performing Female Blackness, a book just out from Wilfrid Laurier University Press. This episode is brought to you with support from Wilfrid Laurier University Press. As always, underwriting opportunities for the Authority File podcast are directed by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, and all of our episodes are produced and edited by Choice's digital media producer, Sabrina Kofer, with support from digital media assistant, Ashley Roy. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.